I'm president of the Neighborhood Preparedness Team. So for those of you who don't know what NPT is, that's what we are, Neighborhood Preparedness Team. And last week, I got this call from this guy on our NPT number, and it turned out to be the gentleman I'm going to introduce to you today. So we put this meeting together in a week, and we did it because it is so important. Norm and I and Jeff, the president of the Computer Club, have been talking about this for months. And unfortunately, Jeff has experience at the Computer Club with our own residents coming up to the Computer Club who have been scammed. And so many people are losing their life savings. So when Gary and I were on the phone and he said, they're seeing an uptick and they're seeing so much activity in the scams that they are starting to do live seminars. So we put this together in a week, but it's not the last time you'll hear from these guys. So Sun City Night Out is in September. How many of you came to the Sun City Night Out last September? Oh, look, oh my word, where were you all? Huge outdoor party at Mountain Shadows, food trucks, dancing, cornhole tournament, all kinds of fun. Don't miss it this year. So we have partners who partner with us because it's a celebration of National Preparedness Month, which is part of FEMA. And so the NPT believes that we should keep you prepared for anything and everything. So at that event, you'll be able to talk to different groups. Metro will be there with officers. The Red Cross is there. CERT, we have the gentleman who does the community outreach for Clark County Fire Department. Anything to help you stay safe and aware of what's going on. So we have also invited Gary and his group to be part of Sun City Night Out. So they'll be there mingling with the residents and kind of helping to educate everyone. And then we will bring them back in October. So a lot of our residents have left already for the hot weather. And they've gone somewhere nice and cool. So a lot of them come back in September and first part of October. So Norm Wright was kind enough to offer to film this today, and the Computer Club is going to post it on their website, and NPT is going to put it up on our YouTube channel. So once you hear the information today, please share it with your neighbors. When you're sitting down at Mountain Shadows, Dick, and you're playing cards, and you're in between hands, you have to say, hey, did you go to defending your money? You know, get the word out, especially to people who may not be real savvy, but they're using a computer or they're using a smartphone. So a little bit about Gary, and then Gary will introduce his team. So Gary Barboa is the Chief Investigator of the Securities Division in the Office of the Secretary of State, Francisco Aguilar. And I did not know this, but his team, they are all Nevada State Patrol. So they are all officers. Gary's been a police officer since April 1992 and has worked several years of homicide and undercover. I'll bet he has a ton of stories. Also, he did several years at the Gaming Control Board working criminal and regulatory cases and has been at the current agency for almost 4 years. Now for a fun fact. How many of you have ever seen the show on television called Cops? Please welcome Gary. He is one of those officers on Cops.
A little part of that is that part of my life, I don't know if anybody here is from out of state, but I did 21 years as a police officer in Albuquerque, so that's where I did all those special assignments before moving out here. Retired out of Albuquerque after 21 years and said I'd never do law enforcement again because I'd had my fill after doing homicide for so long, and moved here and immediately picked up a gun and badge and started doing it again. So it is what it is, right? Sometimes when something's in your blood, it's in your blood. So before I get started, I mainly want you to understand, what a dedicated and qualified group of people that you have at your disposal. So I'm going to ask my team to stand up and just kind of project. I know you don't have a microphone in front of you, but just kind of project as best you can.
I can give them a mic.
Yeah, why don't we do that, Mary? Which I know we're recording.
Check, check.
You have to talk real close.
Okay, very good. I'm Dean DeMaio. I've been with the agency for 4 years now, going on 5 actually. Happy to be here and happy to help you guys out.
My name is Jeremy Bunker. I'm newer with the division. I've been in law enforcement for 12 years.
Good afternoon. I'm Elliot Mann. I am a criminal investigator with this Secretary of State's office. I'm the newest member to the team, but I've been in law enforcement for 15 years. Prior to this, I was with the Attorney General's office.
Hello everybody, my name is Jacqueline O'Malley. I'm another police investigator with the group, and I've been at the agency for about 2 years now, and prior to that I also worked at the Attorney General's office, and I also was assigned to the Police Department's Abuse and Neglect Unit, where I was part of a team that investigated crimes against the elderly and vulnerable people that included exploitation, abuse, and neglect.
And my name is Todd Tumbleson. I've been in federal service for 23 years and United States service now for 5.5. I'm the oldest member of the group, so I hope I can say we and us when I give my part of the presentation.
Okay, so as you can see, we come from a wide array of law enforcement, right? And very dedicated. I can tell you, I'm very proud of my guys. We have more investigators up north who do the same thing, and we're also bringing another investigator on board just because, unfortunately, in my business, there's a lot of business to be had. And that's not a good thing. And that's one of the reasons why I reached out to Mary in an effort to try and reach you, because my team and I have noticed a large uptick, and forgive me, I'm one of those folks that I can't confine myself to a podium. We saw a large uptick in all types of investment fraud, right? Sometimes it's romance scams, sometimes it has to do with apps, sometimes it has to do with in-person. There's just a large uptick in senior-related investment fraud. And I approached them, what can we do better to try and get it before it happens? And this is one of the things we came up with. And because this is something that's very near and dear to my heart. And as you heard earlier, I've investigated a lot of different kinds of crime. But this one particularly sticks out because I want you to picture it in this manner. Picture investment fraud as a disease, right? And in some cases, that disease will come upon you very quickly, and it's devastating, and sometimes it'll build up gradually, and it's still equally as devastating. I'll give you an example of what I mean so you can kind of picture what it was. So, and I'll refer to her, we're all going to have different cases we refer to. So I helped an 86-year-old woman. The offender lived here, she lived in Florida. She never met him in person, but she was put in touch with him through another individual. She was dying of a brain tumor, and she had $86,000 to her name in her bank account. This person promised her that he could actually double, if not triple her money, give her more money to help her get the treatment that she needed. And she gave him all $86,000, right? And I know when I say these things, a lot of times people will tell me, I'd never do that, right? Well, you're going to find, through some of the information we're going to share today, it's not as simple as yes or no sometimes. But she gave him the money. She obviously didn't recoup anything. Until the end, I was able to get $65,000 in restitution from him. Now, having said that, by that point, she used to live in a community just like this, except in Florida. By the end, she was in a hospital, right? And she was moving from hospital to hospital. And then eventually, she succumbed to her brain tumor, right? So that's what I mean when I say it's a disease, because it attacks your financial wealth. And we all work very hard for our money. But if in the end it's zeroed out and you don't have a lot coming in, eventually you are going to find yourself in a situation where it's devastating, just as it would be health-wise, where you're going to lose your home, your cars, the security, what it's like just to wake up knowing that you have a place to live, you have food to eat. She didn't, right? She had to help her find help in Florida just so she could have meals. That's what we're trying to avoid today. That's why normally I try and open with something like, in this situation, I would have done like the E-Trade babies or something like that, just an icebreaker. I didn't today because I really wanted to impart right off the bat how important and how dangerous this kind of crap is. So let's jump in. Things you should know. These are just facts right off the bat because they pertain to you. So Americans in general, and these are ballpark figures, this is what's reported to organizations like FINRA, which is the Financial Industry Regulatory Authority, and the SEC, the Security Exchange Commission. So according to them, what was reported, $8.8 billion was lost to fraud in 2022, 2023 was still pending. When I did this, that's a 30% increase. Now what you should understand is that it increases for the past 10 years exponentially every time. So when it's 30% again in 2023 or 40%, it's above the already 30% it was the year before that. 6.4 billion of that was lost to a combination of investment and imposter scams. They treat these for recording purposes as different from each other. I think our presentation is going to show you they're one and the same. The largest portion of victims were Americans aged 65 or older. And then the census advised that the age group of 65 plus has reached an all-time high of nearly 60 million Americans, which is 17% of America's population. By 2040, the census believes that it will be 1/4 of America's population. Why is all this important? Because as I was talking about with Mary earlier, so the world today is a lot smaller place, right? And in part because of the small boxes we all carry and always have our faces in. And if I said, hey, as a group, let's all plan a trip to Europe and order pizza at the same time, we can all pull it off just using that little box, right? But what it also does is it invites people and makes you accessible to them that they weren't before, right? Because we're inviting them in by utilizing apps, or visiting sites, or doing different things. You're going to see that these people find your information on what's called the dark web, and we're going to get a little bit into that, and then use your vulnerabilities against you. So, between investment scams, theft, and financial exploitation, Americans 65 and older were robbed roughly $20 billion last year. So why is that number, you think, higher than that number? And I'll tell you. Because that number right there, the 20 billion, so that if you notice, I included their financial exploitation. Because sometimes it's family, right? It's not always an unknown bad guy. There's lots of cases that we get, Jeremy's got a couple now, where it was somebody from within the family who maybe they think they have some sort of great investment, a robot that automatically walks your dog, or they're day traders and they just need a little bit of seed money to start. And hey, it really helped me out, mom, dad, grandma, grandpa. If you could give me, I don't know, $100,000, I'll triple your money. You don't realize it, but that's fraud, right? I know we all love our siblings and our relatives, but at the same time, it doesn't necessarily mean that everyone has their best interests in mind. We're going to kind of get into that as well today. So, we've all heard that saying, ignorance is bliss, right? Not when it comes to your money. I'm telling you right now, not when it comes to your money. So what I'm here today is help you arm yourself like this little guy right here and tell you that knowledge is your best weapon. So these are some of the things that we're going to cover today. What are the right questions to ask before investing? A lot of people don't know, right? You want to get involved, even if it's just getting your toes wet, and figure out something, maybe it's legitimate, something like Merrill Lynch or something like that, or maybe it's something else, but you still don't know what questions should I ask. And I'm going to show you, I even compiled a checklist for you of questions that you absolutely positively should have answers to before you ever do anything with your money. How many of you have ever heard of pig butchery? Yeah. 2? Okay, there you go. So pig butchery is something that's come on recent. I'm going to kind of give you a little bit of history about it. Both Jasmine and Todd are going to kind of go even deeper when it comes to crypto and romance scams. But it's something very legitimate that is happening today, and it could be happening to somebody that you know or even yourself. Jasmine's gonna get into what's a romance scam. So I was talking to Mary the other day for quite a bit on the phone, and I've been with my wife for 23 years. And back then, there was no apps or anything. I still had to do it the old-fashioned way, where I was a cop, she was a waitress, and I did it the old-fashioned way to introduce myself, right? Not so anymore. Now there's a million apps for whatever you want. Farmers, singers, whatever, religious, it doesn't matter. All you have to do is swipe left or right, and allegedly, you meet that person. And I say allegedly because you're doing it virtually. You have no idea. And we're going to kind of go over how they use that inability to kind of verify who you're talking to against you. How many of you are involved with cryptocurrency right now? No. So usually, that's why I'm laughing. I hear the murmurs. I always hear the murmurs because when you say cryptocurrency, and I myself included, it's kind of a little bit scary, right? Like cryptocurrency, I have no idea. Is that even really legit? Is it money? There's some countries who actually do back it, right? There's some countries who do their best to regulate it. But a good portion of cryptocurrency happens on the dark web and other back alley places, if you will, in the illegitimate world. So we're going to try and explain some of that to you and tell you to look for things if you decide to invest in that area, and what to ask. And then, so as you can tell from Mary's introduction to me, how many of you knew that there was police officers that worked for the Secretary of State? Yeah. Hey, there you go. You got extra credit at the test at the end. So that's always a surprise to everybody. They're like, you guys carry guns, you carry badges, yep, all that stuff. And we investigate as best we can for everybody, right? Because we really want to make sure that people don't get victimized, and if you are, they will try and help you get your money back and those people sent to prison. Okay, so for that, we have a little cartoon there. Investing can be scary. I can provide you with a stunt double for the risky parts, right? Because trust me, sometimes you want it. It's pretty scary. So, who thinks they know what a security is? No, trust me, I'm not going to make you look bad. It's fine. Anybody? No? Go ahead. Sure. Go ahead, man. Anybody? I saw other hands. Right? Everybody always thinks stocks. Sure, yeah. So the reason why I always ask the crowd is because you always get nerd answers. And the reason why is because there's tons of different types of securities, right? So here's what I put together as far as it is. Most people understand that stocks and bonds are securities and know that special laws apply to securities, but many do not realize that many states have laws that define securities much more broadly. Ours is one of them. A security may also include items such as promissory notes, investment contracts, limited partnership interest, LLC interests, and oil and gas partnerships, and I left out mining. Like we've recently submitted a case that had to do with the diamond mine, right? So there's a lot of different variations of security. And because of that, the courts have upheld, and I'll explain why I have Scrooge McDuck up there in a second. It's best to assume that any plan where someone invests money with the hope of achieving or receiving a profit due to another person's effort is security. So let's dumb that down. If you invest money on somebody else asking you to invest money, and they tell you you don't have to do anything. Norm, you just give me $100,000 and I'll take care of everything. You're already in the securities neighborhood, right? You don't have to have a security such as a stock or bond or anything like that. You can just have an agreement. I prosecuted a case where it was two young women. One was 27 and the other one was 32. Both married. Neither one told their husband what they were doing. One invested $107,000, and the other one invested $60,000 with this guy. And I'll get more into him later. And all they did was, it was via text. Now they did meet him in person, but via text, they would ask him, like, what is this again? And he'd say, we're making tons of money. I get some properties. I don't want to get too into the weeds with you. He would tell them, but at the end of the day, I can 100% double your money within 10 days, no matter what amount you invest. So right off the bat, you're like, I know sitting here, especially since we're doing this presentation, you guys are like, really? Who would have done that? People did, right? And as you can imagine, once their husbands found out, one wound up in a divorce. Because that's a big deal when you show up and you're like, hey, by the way, our retirement account's $100,000 less. So the reason why I have Scrooge McDuck up there is that you've all heard that saying, walks like a duck and quacks like a duck. In this case, it walks like a duck and quacks like a duck, it's a security. All right, before you invest, be suspicious. So give me an idea of what you think that might be. called due diligence. So be suspicious because usually, not all the time, but a good proportionate amount of time, they approach you. So usually in the real world, right, when you're thinking, I want to invest, you're probably going to go to one of the big boys or do something like that and just ask them questions or involve your 401k or something of that nature. But most of the time, they approach you, right? And sometimes it's in person. Like one of my offenders, he lived in a community like this, and he'd been in trouble for securities fraud before, but what he would do is he would take the opportunity. I assume you probably have like a gym. You guys have a gym? Yep. He would make sure he went out to work out several times a day, chat up to people next to him and tell him how much money he was making, and didn't have to worry about his house, and he's seen buying other properties as well. And before you know it, you get some interested people and they come over to their house for a couple of years, and before you know it, you've invested, right? And it was somebody who lived right amongst them, right? So those are the kind of things, be suspicious. Like, wait a minute, I didn't even mention anything to this guy, right? And yet they're approaching me with all kinds of deals. So you guys kind of mentioned this already, be skeptical. So if somebody tells you, hey, no matter the amount, I can double your money in 10 days. And I know in your head, because a couple of you remembered it, it sounds too good to be true, right? So in our realm, what we investigate, if something seems too good to be true, it is, right? Run. That's an automatic rule for you. If I teach you nothing else today, if it sounds too good to be true, it is. Because there's no such thing. There's a reason why most financial institutions in the world offer 3% and stay within a certain range and all these things. If anybody says I can do 100%, no matter the amount, so you could literally tell this guy $20 million, done. Okay, and it comes up quite often. Understand the investment. So, who has never, ever invested before? Raise your hand. What's your name? Laverne? Okay, Laverne. So, let's say I'm that guy in the gym, and I come to you, and we start talking, and you're like, I wouldn't be comfortable investing anything over $100,000. Okay, Laverne, I'll tell you what, it's more than I normally take, but you seem like a very nice person. And don't spread this around to these folks that are sitting around us, but I'm going to give you the special friends and family discount that normally only people like my mom get, right? But I'm going to give you that special one. So I'm going to take that $100,000, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to triple it. So every month I'm going to give you $1,000, and then at the end of those 3 months, I'll give you your original $100,000 back. But keep in mind, Vern, this is what I want you to pay attention to. When you want some money back, this is what's going to happen. Because a large part of our currency that I make is invested in properties. And then I take that property and take those funds and I invest it in what's called foreign currency investment. You don't have to really understand it, but it's a big deal, right? So I buy liras and then I take those liras and I invest in the dinar. Now the problem is when you want to get back to me or get money from me, I have to wait on Italy, right? I don't know if you know what time it is, but it's like 2 o'clock here, but it's 2 in the morning over there. And then when you start talking about Iraqi dinars, it's going to be like 4 in the morning over there. And I have to wait on their stock exchanges. Keep in mind, are you even sure that Iraq has a stock exchange? I don't think so. But I have to wait on their stock exchanges to be able to transfer money back to Italy, back to me. But don't worry, I have a lawyer in Italy. He's one of the best. His name is Gio. Someday I'll introduce you to. He'll take care of everything. Do you understand any of what I just said? No, right? Now, what I just told you is a real scenario. I didn't make that up. Now, none of those things have anything to do with the other. Foreign currency exchange, property purchase, and all that stuff. They have nothing to do with each other. But that's what happens, right? And you're like, oh, okay, it sounds legit. He has a lawyer named Gio. It must be okay. And you have to understand, if they approach everybody in this room, right, and they get 2 of you to invest a couple $100,000, he's good, right? Because this is their income. So one of the things that we do, we pull bank records, and when these people get their money into their accounts, they go to movies, they go to the Bahamas, they buy new cars. They don't do anything they said they were going to do. But that's their income. That's their job, right? And so they count on this information like yourself. They're not really sure. Don't worry, I handle everything. I'll go to Italy for you, and I'll go to that Iraqi stock exchange, and we'll get your money out of there, right? They do it all the time. That's a real-world example of what one of my offenders did. Is the investment registered? So the Investment Act of 1933 made it law that securities have to be registered. Without getting into too deep in all that stuff, because it is stuff that will put you to sleep, just understand that when it comes to stock exchange, or stocks and bonds and those kind of things, they have to be registered with the SEC. There's special forms they have to file, and if they're not registered, they have to go through what's called a registered agent. That's somebody who's registered with those same organizations who allow to sell those. So that all that stuff can be tracked. So that's going to come up later. If that's one of the questions you should ask, right? And I'm going to show you on a list that I made for y'all. That, hey, is this registered? Because they'll immediately start to backtrack, right? That's one of the questions they don't like. Or are you registered? Those kind of things. Where I can see you're not really interested. You know what I mean? I'm going to take back that friends and family discount. You just showed me your true colors.
Was Bonnie Madoff registered?
We must have been, right? Or at least we registered agents. Check out the seller. I cannot tell you this one enough. So, if you are approached by me, right, I wanted you to invest, what's one of the first things that you should do? Anybody? What's that?
Who are you?
Yeah, who are you? Sure. And if I tell you, okay, my name is Gary Barbeau, I've been in the investment business for 33 years. No. Google. I'll take that. You know what? Google. Because Google, in most cases, will tell you a lot more than you ever want to know about somebody, right? So remember that guy I told you that had the 2 young ladies who invested with him? When you type in his name, that's what comes up. Every single one is about him. Developer sentenced to almost 2 years in prison. These are all separate issues. Attorney General Mastro announces sentencing in securities case. All of these, right, including down here, developer sentenced to prison for banking investment, or bilking investors of $2 million. He repeatedly did it. He was always caught. So if these 2 young ladies had actually just taken the time to just Google his name, but that's how bamboozled he had them, and that's how charmed he was. So again, because this can come from anywhere, so they actually were going to a realty school in town, right? And he happened to work there. Initially as a janitor and then a consultant. But what he was doing is he was looking for opportunities. And then as he saw students staying late after school, he would approach him, talk to him, and say, you know what, I've been in the business for 40 years. I used to make a lot of money, but now I'm here because I want to give back to the community. Blah, 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 right? And then he built them for their cash. But a simple Google of his name would have turned up all that, right? And then you run the opposite direction. But I can't tell you how quickly some of the folks get charmed and decide, I don't have to do any due diligence. That's one of the first questions that myself and my investigators will ask is, what due diligence did you do? It's not to belittle someone or mock them. It's so that we can articulate in our report, like, look, this is somebody who is way unfamiliar with that world who got taken advantage of, right? That's to say that you're still not a victim if you have been involved in that world before, but it's a big issue. All right. Gentlemen, do you want to hand out those forms, my forms? So my guys are going to hand out a form. We're going to go over it a little bit here. This is that checklist. I put the NASA stamp on there too. Everything's on there. So NASA is the North American Securities Administrators Association. That's another good resource. All these acronyms I'm giving you are good resources to check things before you decide to invest with anybody or in anything. So please take one of these forms. It will come in handy, trust me. Give you a couple of seconds.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. So follow along if you want. So these are just basics, right? And they seem like they're kind of course I would ask that. You'd be surprised how much people don't ask when the time comes. Because normally they also utilize what we call high pressure tactics, being like, hey, Jeff, I need your answer like yesterday, so I need you to decide within the hour. They don't want you doing a whole lot of checking before you do stuff. So as you can see right here, so agent name. So obviously, being police officers, we have the advantage of having a wide array of different databases that we can immediately run something. You don't have to just use Google, although I do, because again, it will tell you everything in more than you wanted to know. But we have a lot of different databases. We can check criminal histories, we can check other states, we can get license pictures, we can do all kinds of stuff. Because a lot of times what these guys do is they're like carnies, right? They will get a couple of investors in a certain state, get that money, and before things get too hot, they move to another state, change their name, do it again. Yes, ma'am.
Sorry to interrupt, but we have sort of a very urgent situation. Someone with a Santa Fe license number, is it F32, red, what is it? What's the 535? License 534 F32. Anyone here driving a red Santa Fe? All right.
No worries. Besides the other items on here, one of the things I want to focus on is today's date. So dates are important for us because the way the law is written, and we can kind of toy with it one way or the other sometimes, but in general, we have 4 years from the date that the fraud occurred. Now, one of the ways we can toy with that a little bit is like, let's say they tell you, okay, I'm going to give you interest every month for the next 2 years. And then all of a sudden at some point, maybe after 2 years, your interest dries up. You don't realize that you've been getting interest by your own investment or somebody else's investment, which is illegal. But we can extend the rule by that. So if you don't discover that you've been defrauded until 2 years into your investment, it's not that date, it'll be 2 years from when you discover it. So I highlighted some of the things on here again. What products are you offering? So a lot of times they won't want to be pigeonholed, right? Because they don't want you to be able to Google anything. So when you start asking them, are you offering a security, especially because even the bad guys know I have to be registered or the security has to be registered. So as soon as you start asking questions like, are you offering a security? No, not for security. And so if you start getting noticed a lot of these questions, run. Who regulates or licenses this product? Because again, I'm doing a lot of acronyms like FINRA and SEC and NASA and ourselves, right? We all regulate these kind of things. So if they tell you, oh, nobody, this is kind of those investments that you don't really have to have. It's so small, you don't have to be overlooked by anybody. Run. That's not true. What are the risks? So I'm sure many of you in here actually have a financial person that helps you. I myself do as well, and one of the first things he told me was, just so you know, there's risk involved with any investment, right? Because they have to, by law, not only state law, national law, they have to tell you, all right, there's some risk involved. So if somebody comes to you and says, don't worry about it, 10 days to double your money, there's no risk to you, I take care of everything. Nope, run. All this stuff here, make sure that, because if they're legit, they should have a number. And if they have a number and you come to somebody like me, or even some of the websites I mentioned, and we'll go into that here in a couple of seconds, you'll be able to look that kind of stuff up. So if they say they're licensed to sell securities, they should have that number. Same for insurance salesmen, because sometimes they'll try and get you to invest in their life insurance, where it's like, well, you buy my life insurance policy now, and I'll give you the money now, and then you just have to pay me back at the end, and they'll do all kinds of different scams. They should have a license number that can be checked. Okay, so you have this form filled out. You've talked to somebody. Now what? So go to that site I mentioned already, FINRA, the Financial Industry Regulatory Authority, right? You can just put in FINRA.com and that'll pop up. One of their tabs is called Broker Check. So you can actually check on there and see if somebody's registered or not. So if somebody says, oh yeah, I've been registered to Scout Securities for about 10 years now, you can go right on there and check. They have by state, they have a lot of different stuff, and if it's not, then you can call them back up and, hey, is that BS? Did you just tell me that you're registered and you're actually not? Oh, no, this is, because they'll start to backpedal. I didn't mean I was registered to sell that kind of security, I was registered for something else. Us. right? Contact your state securities regulator. I can't tell you how many times we reach out to victims because we get investigating a crime, or we'll see bank records, and I'll find out that maybe Norm invested and he's getting taken, but his money was used to pay Jeff and Mary, and that's how it works, right? They're just trying to keep all of you guys happy by paying a little bit of interest every month to make it seem like, oh yeah, everything's fine. But in reality, they're spending their cash immediately. So sometimes people will call us and they'll ask, hey, what do you know about this? Because we have a big database of our own where we keep all our offenders and all the cases we've done in perpetuity. So we'll be able to look and we say, well, no, Laverne, she's troubled. She's come up in a couple different cases before. So make sure you utilize those kind of resources because they're right there. Most people just don't know we exist. SEC, the Security Exchange Commission, right? They too have a national tool to look at. So like we'll use that too. So Dean had a case where he was able to look up and find that the guy was actually disbarred at one point for securities issues, right? So you can go in there and find out, yes, maybe they were registered at one point, but they were disbarred. They lost their license for whatever reason. And, as you can see, so you check on more details, and it'll give you a summary report of everything that's happened. And if there's nothing to report, it'll say that too. Right? But just think about how handy this would have come in to a lot of the folks that have invested already. That it's right there at your fingertips. You just don't know it. And I apologize for moving quickly, but we're trying to keep it to an hour for y'all folks. All right, so FINRA broker check, make sure you use that and contact the state. I would don't even pick one. I would utilize them all. Because there are times when maybe FINRA caught something that we didn't, or that we caught something that they didn't. You want to avail yourself of all the information before you give away your hard-earned cash. Because unfortunately, when it comes to these kind of things, as I've explained already, once you hand it to them, it's gone. For securities, again, go to investor.gov. Investor.gov. And if you want, this way you don't have to write these down, I can compile a little list of some of these sites and I can send them to Mary and maybe she can put them on in some sort of email blast for you all so you don't have to try and outrace me because I know I can be pretty quick on the clicker. Again, ask us, right? Because if nothing else, I will help you get to those websites. We do that all the time. I'll look it up on our databases or whoever answers the phone that day will look up on our databases. But we'll also say, hey, write this down. Go to FINRA, go to SEC, go to NASA. And by the end, I think you're going to turn up a whole lot of information on that person who's approaching you. So when you go to the SEC website, these are some of the tabs right off the bat that should be of interest to you. Introduction to investing. So if you've never been an investor before, you go there. There's a whole layout on what you should be asking and looking for red flags. Financial tools. So one of the things that I'm sure, again, your financial person asked you was, what is your goal? Like, are you looking to retire early? Are you looking to help your kids through college? What is your goal? These guys don't care about your goal, right? They're not going to ask that. So the SEC website kind of gives you the financial tools to kind of figure out whether what they're offering is pretty legit or not. And you're going to see very quickly it's not. Just because of the sheer amount of money that they're offering you. And then there's another tab called Protect Your Investments. And they're kind of giving you a lot of the same information that I'm trying to give you today. So, before you invest, did you get all your questions asked, right? And the reason why I phrase it that way is because a lot of these guys, when you start asking them questions, immediately they're going to be like, I wish I could help you, but I don't have time. I have 4 other investors that are kind of knocking down my door. So, think about it, call me back in 20 minutes, and I'll see what I can do for you. But I have to go, I have somebody who's willing to give me $150,000 right now, right? So if you didn't get the opportunity to ask all your questions, they kind of throw you off. Nope, run. Did you check everything out, right? I explained to you already that about the young women that didn't even bother to do a Google check, right? So at the very least, start with that, and then avail yourself of all the websites I told you about. Because if you haven't checked everything out to where you feel pretty good about it, go invest. You understand the investment inside and out. Everyone was kind enough to help me with that example. That was a real life example. And I'm betting a lot of you didn't understand half what I was talking about, right? Financial currency, foreign currency, investment, and different stuff, all real world things that they're going to utilize, because they give you just enough truth, right? So if you type in foreign currency and investment into the computer, a lot of stuff is going to come up, because it is a big thing, going out using the US dollar to purchase lesser amounts from other countries, right? So real things, when you look it up and you're like, oh, it seems legit. He said some of the stuff that's on here. But at the end of the day, if your answer is no to any of these, it should also be no to the investment. Might be defeating me. All right. Before we move on to pig butchering, everybody okay with what we just covered? I know, it's a lot. But, like Mary said, we will be back. And plus, we're going to have our number up at the end too, so if you just feel like you have to have the question answered, I'll do my best, and my folks will do the best to answer it for you. So what in the world is pig butchering? So you can see on here that we have a number of things, right? Phone profiles, this part of the hog is investing, dating apps, ghosting, love bombing. All these things are part of what's used in pig butchering. That's what I grew up in. I grew up on with some hogs and sheep and a couple horses across the street. That's fattening the hog for the slaughter, and literally that is what it is. Todd and Jacqueline are going to get more into it, of course, but I'm going to give you a basic here. So it's a type of scam that originated in China and really took off after the pandemic. Why do you think that is? Why did it take off during the pandemic, you think? We were lonely, right? We were basically shut in for a year, and if you don't have a lot of friends or family you were in contact with, they took the opportunity, right? And I'll show you how in a second here. But that's why. So it really kind of took off because they knew that there was going to be people. So what they would do is they'd go on the dark web, buy a mass list of phone numbers, and just put out the same text. And again, if I put out as a bad guy and it costs me nothing, 10,000 texts, and I get 12 people to answer and give me a few $100,000, I'm good. So this is one of our biggest user of imposter scams, and I'll explain here in a sec what that means. So scammers create a fake identity. So it kind of goes back to what I was saying. We see it all the time, whereas they'll get a profile picture that's not them. And a good portion of the time, as Todd's going to explain to you, a lot of these scammers actually aren't even in the country, right? They're in China and Eastern Europe, like places like Russia and a couple other countries we see it all the time. Ukraine. And so they create a fake identity, so they'll take a picture of an attractive individual and they'll put it on their identity if it's a dating app, right? And all they do is they reach out to you and they'll use words that they know will trigger you, especially, if you're someone who's a widower or widow and that kind of stuff, they will play on that kind of stuff to make sure that they ingratiate themselves. They initiate contact. So remember what I told you earlier, be suspicious, right? So you get this text message a lot of times, this is some of the stuff we see. So it'll be something to say like, hey Mary, your $6,000 check is ready. I can't believe we made that much money that quickly. The wine business is very profitable. Jerry was right. Right? And then you type back, not everybody does, but some folks type back and go, oh, sorry, I'm not married. Oh. Well, sorry, I was just super excited about making so much money. I had to tell somebody, so I was telling my friend Mary to see if she wanted to get involved. I like wine, right? And I agree. But that's where it starts, right? So now they initiate a conversation, and after a while, a couple of days in, they start talking to you. You get a text message saying, hey, you seem like a really nice person. So just so you know, here's the website that got me involved. Now, at first you're like, oh, website, right? But all of us can get together right now, throw our money in the pot, go to GoDaddy.com, and create a website, right? And they do it all the time. Same with apps. So a lot of people are amazed to discover that on the Google Store and the Apple Store, a lot of those apps are fake apps, right? You can just get an app, you pay Apple or pay Google, and they put it in their store, and you download it. But you're telling yourself, oh, I got this off of Apple, so it has to be legit. Right? And it is a functioning website or app in that it will allow you to make a transaction. Right? So they win your trust. How do they do that? So they get you to make that initial transaction. And what they'll do is they'll manipulate the website or app, to show you that perhaps, let's say you're investing in crypto. And your crypto investment, maybe you invested $1,000, $5,000, just because you want to get your toes wet. Oh man, it's going up. My account says I have $25,000 in there. So you reach out to them, and they're like, yes, sir, you do. You have $25,000. Now, we do have a mandate where you can't withdraw funds for 90 days, but you can actually take out $1,000 right now if you need it. That's the limit we can do. We shouldn't really do it, but we're going to let you have $1,000. Yeah, I'll take $1,000. So you take it out, and now you're like, man, I just made $1,000 overnight. That seems awesome, right? So they win your trust. So now they got that transaction. They proved the legitimacy because now you got money back, right? You invested and you got money back. So what they tell you now is, all right, we're actually about to, I shouldn't tell you this, but we're about to have an uptick again. If you invested such and such now, you would have X amount in your bank account by the end of the week. Okay, sure, let's do that. And then they got you again, right? Again, and then they use the desperation to get money back, because it doesn't take very long, a few weeks, maybe a couple months, depending on how long they have you on the hook, for you to realize, wait a minute, I'm not getting my money back, because they keep giving you different reasons why you can't have your money back, right? Website's down, IT isn't worth anything, blah, 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 blah. So, when they really start to feel your heat, because you're constantly typing, and you're telling them, I'm going to contact my lawyer, I'm going to contact the police. All right, so roll. What we'll do is, give us, you have to cover the fees, because we want to pay the fees. We really shouldn't do this for you, but if you give us $2,000, we can give you up to $50,000. And I know it, right? I can hear the chuckles, but they get the $2,000. And not just once, right? Dean, you had a person, right, who you literally had to go call him and tell him, stop giving the money.
Yep.
Right? How many times do you think in this approximately that he gave money to get his money back?
At least 5 times.
5 times. Right? And how many times, how much a shot you were taking?
Probably $5,000 a time.
Yeah, $5,000 each time to get his original investment back. So now they've got $25,000 extra from this guy, and they'll just keep going. The only time it stops is when you stop. But you're never going to get that money back. And Todd's going to show you what happens to your money, especially when it comes to the world of crypto. When it comes to crypto, and again, he's going to get deeper into it, if you invested into crypto right now, and it was a fake app or a fake site, but before I'm done with this sentence, it's in China. Right? And we can show you, we have a chart, because we're able to track all the different transactions that happen from your purchase, and it really is crazy, right, how quickly it's gone. Questions? I know I shot through it quickly, and we'll stand by to answer any questions you have afterwards, or answer by phone, but anything so far that I've covered, the pig butchering, the apps, anything. Excellent. So let's just move into the pack of scams. Jacqueline, you want to come up?
Hello, everybody. I'm going to talk to you about romance scams. And kind of the theme of today's presentation has been, if it's too good to be true, you got it. And so, just to tell you, probably one of the most common cases we get at the Secretary of State's office are romance scams and the cryptocurrency scams, the pig butchering. So this is really important, and I'm so glad you guys are here. First timer. So some things that I want to make sure you guys understand. So in case you guys are single, or maybe you will be in the future, or you have friends that maybe somebody new came into their life for a dating relationship, maybe have in the back of your mind the things that we're going to talk about so that you kind of are ready if you see some red flags. So I think one of the most important things that you should know is that strangers don't want to marry you. I mean, I know you guys are awesome, obviously, but people who've only chatted with you, briefly through text messages, online, social media. They're not going to uproot their life to move to Las Vegas. They're not going to live with you and get married and travel the world. And the reason why they tell you this is because it's flattering. My gosh, you want to marry me? And it's a way to get your money. Because it's very easy to say, well, put me on your bank account. We're going to get married. We're going to do it anyway. You know what? Put me on the deed to your house. We're going to get married anyway. Oh, change your trust. Add me as a beneficiary. We're going to get married anyway. So just know that somebody that you don't know, they really don't want to marry you. And so probably one of the biggest red flags also is that the new person that you may be talking to, who says they love you, who says they want to marry you, and all this time goes on, and you still haven't met this person. You may have talked to them on the phone, you may have thought that you FaceTime, but you never met them for a reason because they don't exist. This entire relationship is meant to steal your money. And so another red flag is if this new person in your life initially starts asking you about your money. What's your social security? What's your pension? Do you live off a trust? How much property do you own? Have you had any inheritances lately? A person who's truly interested in you, they don't care. So just be very careful if a new person in your life starts to be very interested in your money. I mean, it doesn't seem nefarious at first, but please just pay attention. And so just keep in mind, it's easy to get carried away that somebody likes you, they give you compliments, but also keep in mind that you don't need to buy anybody's attention or affection. And that seems to be part of these scams also, that sometimes the victims believe that in order to keep the relationship going, that there needs to be some sort of exchange of money, and that's just not the case. Don't be a victim. And so basically, these romance scams are really a recipe for your financial disaster. So who do these scammers target? It's really anybody, men, women, people of all ages, and mostly they're going to be targeting people who are lonely and looking for a relationship. And what happens is that sometimes the victims get so excited and consumed with the new relationship that can really make them blind to fraud that's occurring right in front of them. It's easy to ignore these red flags. So that's why I want you guys to make sure that you pay attention and that you know what to look for. And so I thought a good way to explain this to you guys was to talk about cases that we've had in the past so that maybe you can learn from mistakes of former victims. So victim 1, she was 62 years old, a recent widow. Her husband died suddenly from cancer, and she was also still grieving the death of a son who died accidentally at her home. So what made this victim give $850,000 to a stranger she met on a dating app? Well, one of the things that her husband made her promise before he passed away was that she don't give up on love and that she make herself available and put herself out there. So she thought that she was just kind of going along with his wishes when she went on this dating app and found this man who said that he was interested in dating her. At the time, she was lonely, seeking companionship. She missed her husband. And for the first time, she actually had a romantic future to look forward to. And this was very exciting for her. Part of the allure was all the new attention she was getting. It was flattering. This man, again, had just met her, said he loved her, hinted about marriage, red flag, red flag. And so what actually helped this man scammer also was that he pretended to be a billionaire. He said he was billionaire business tycoon, and that he was going to help take her husband's life insurance policy funds, that was the $850,000, and help her make millions. And, you know, doing this for as long as I have, it always surprises me, and it shouldn't, but this woman, like many that we'll hear about, part of what happened and why she got scammed is just she never thought that somebody would do that to her, especially in this way. Somebody who says, I love you, I want to marry you. Who would do that to you? So there's always clues to the deception that in hindsight were pretty clear. Number one, he was very vague about how he was investing her money. And he would frequently ask her for money with no real explanation. And then when she would ask him about it, he would become very angry. And that part of what he would tell her is that he would threaten to cut the relationship off if she asked too many questions. And so then she just stopped. And he would also, the timing of when she would give this man large amounts of money, he would show up with a new Rolex, with a new BMW, talk about making money gambling, going on trips, and it was her money. And then most of all, too, the actual amount of time they spent together, one-on-one, was very rare. Most of the relationship was through text messages. And the reason why is because he had another girlfriend. And so what finally made this woman report the fraud? Well, it wasn't up to her initially, but she had a concerned friend, and this is important to you guys, so maybe you could be this concerned friend, that she confided in this person, told him what was going on, and he said, you need to report it to police. And she was very hesitant, and he finally said, if you don't, I will, so what's it going to be? And to be honest with you, if this friend hadn't have encouraged her to do this, I really believe she would still be sitting there waiting for her money. Victim number 2. She was a widow, 82, multi-millionaire, lonely, very bored. She was also grieving the death of a fiancé. So this is an example of the pig butchering. So what made victim 2 give $500,000 and jewels to a stranger who messaged her on social media? This victim was a fan of Elon Musk. She had liked a fan page and all of a sudden received a message claiming to be from Elon Musk. She was lonely, seeking companionship. She was very excited that she had a romantic future with a rich celebrity. Like I told you guys, within days of chatting on an encrypted app on a phone, Elon Musk, so she thought, said that he loved her and they were going to get married. Again, very exciting, something to look forward to. He even told her that he was going to make a crown with precious jewels for the both of them. And she sent the jewels. And like our other victim, she never thought that somebody would scam her like this. Didn't even occur to her. So the clues to this deception, again, they never met in person. This pig butchering went on for several months, never met. There was always an excuse, a reason why. Plane broke down, somebody had an accident, they were held hostage in a foreign country, just never happened. One of the things that these strangers, as I call them, did was asked her to send money and wire money to all sorts of people across the country, supposedly to help her make cryptocurrency investments. Why? If you're marrying Elon Musk, who's a billionaire, why wouldn't he pay it for you? Why would you need crypto investments? And then one of the big things here
and this is actually pretty important and common, is that these scammers tell these people, don't tell anybody about us, it's just our secret. And that actually created some issues in this investigation. And then once she refused to send money, never heard from these people again. So what made her report the fraud? Well, she didn't. She thought that she was going to get married to Elon Musk. It was her bookkeeper that sent a report to us. And initially she was very uncooperative with me, took a lot of work, a lot of phone calls, but she eventually realized that she was scammed. Victim number 3. She was recently divorced with children, 45 years old, also lonely, and stressed out about money. This was another pig butchering scam where she gave $180,000 toward a cryptocurrency trading app to a stranger who was on a dating app, And so this is one of those crypto trading platform cases that Gary had spoken about, where it looks like, oh my God, I made $50,000, and I'm just gonna let it keep rolling. And it was fake. And so she believed that the stranger she met on this dating app was a wealthy stranger who was interested in dating her. They spoke for months, and he convinced her that he made all this money doing the crypto trading, and he wanted to help her too. And like the other victims that we talked about, she also never thought that somebody would do this to her. Who would think? I met somebody on a dating app, they said they like me and want to date me. Why would you think that they're going to steal from you? I hope you guys know that they do. And some clues to this deception. Again, here's the theme. Never met in person. The messages that she received from this person had like the Chinese symbols, so that was a clue that Mr. Wonderful really did not live in California, and that once her money was frozen from the platform and she couldn't get it out, then never heard from this person again. And to make matters worse, when she went back to the dating app, she found the man's picture on different profiles. So now the guy from California was really a farmer from Wisconsin, and so on and so forth. And so what made her report the fraud was that the person stopped talking to her, and she just needed her money back, so she needed our help. So the lessons learned from these romance scams is, I just want to let you know, you are never going to get that money back. Maybe a little bit, maybe if we're lucky, but just kiss it goodbye. So please don't get involved in these scams. And just to let you know, law enforcement doesn't judge anybody. If it did happen to you or a friend, we're here to help you. I know a lot of people, they say that they're embarrassed, they should have known better, but please don't have that as a reason not to report it. And then as quick as these scammers come into your life, poof, they are gone. And then another thing that I've noticed in these cases too is, just like our first victim, thinking that the longer you stay in these relationships means the better chance you get to have your money back. That is absolutely not the case. So I would really encourage you guys, report this as soon as you can. Have these in the back of your mind. If you meet a new person, if your friends meet a new person, and again, we're just really here to make sure that you guys don't be a victim. Any questions?
Go ahead.
It happens as well.
Can you repeat that question, please?
Yeah, how often does it happen? So the question was, how often does it happen in reverse, where it's not the woman, it's a man? It happens all the time, right? And in those situations, what they'll do is as I mentioned earlier, they'll pick an attractive female, they'll post. Dean has a couple now where he's working that was one of the ones where the guy gave gave some money to try and get his money back, where they use sex, right? So now it's kind of different. They send naughty photos, all that kind of stuff, kind of enticing him. And when it happens both sides. So one of the things that Jackson, didn't mention, and nobody's getting named obviously, but in one of those scenarios, the woman sent nude photos of herself. And of course, now they have you, right? Because the second you start giving them too much of a hassle, they're like, okay, if that's what you want to do, then we're going to post the photos, right? All this time she thought she was in love. So just keep kind of the red flag that Jackson mentioned as far as that these people you've never met, and they approached you, some of the stuff we've already talked about. And again, if it seems too good to be true, then it is, right? Elon Musk, now what they would do to her was they would take stock photos, and he'd be, this is me right now in such and such, in the French and France, and I'm watching the Tour de France, and it's a stock photo of him doing that, but he sent to her like, this is, I'm thinking of you kind of stuff. So again, if it sounds too good to be true, it is. When she mentions the money, I can't reiterate that enough. So when it comes to cryptocurrency and stuff like that, as Todd's going to explain, it's very, very difficult, if not impossible, to get back. Now, if they're in state, there's things we can do, and I mentioned this to Mary. So there's two ways we can do this. One is court-ordered restitution. So in lieu of jail, they'll pay most, if not all, of their money back, or at least some degree of money back. Like I told you about the one earlier, where out of 87,000, she got 65 back. Or there's sometimes when they negotiate even before that, like Jackson has one right now, where the woman suspect has actually agreed to pay back the money that she stole in lieu of being prosecuted. So those are ways, but those are in-house, those are in-country, right? When it comes to overseas, it's almost impossible, right? Because we do, believe it or not, we do contact Chinese authorities or Nigerian authorities. You know how far that gets us. But to answer your question, it happens all the time. I'm sorry, I know we're running long. We got about 10, 15 minutes more. So, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, hi. I want to mention the scam that happened to me, and it has happened to somebody at the computer club. And just because you think, I'm fairly knowledgeable computer-wise, and to have a member of the computer club get scammed because they received a message allegedly from Jeff Wilkinson to say, hey, I need $700 or $8,000 or whatever it was to help me out, can you help me out? And I got caught in the same kind of a thing, being a trusting individual. I want to thank you very much for being here, and I want to say one of the frustrating things is that when you go to the police department, they have no knowledge about what you're doing. And to me, it was very frustrating when I said, but they just don't do anything in the police department. So one of my questions to you, before I'm going to ask it, is I also want to say to everybody, don't be embarrassed by what was just said before, and it is very embarrassing. I'm lucky my wife didn't kick me out of the house. I mean, it wasn't $80,000 or anything else like that. It wasn't life-threatening. It wouldn't lose her. But it was enough to make a stink. And don't think it can't happen to you, because it can. And I would really like, the question is, how can we report this if it does happen to us?
So at the very end, it'll take me about 3 minutes to cover how you can use our website to report it. So I'll make it real easy for you. But just know, it's no judgment on, say, like Metro or any of the local police departments. That's not their expertise, right? They're first responders. The expertise is ours, right? Always. And this is what I tell people when they call me. So they'll tell me, I've already contacted the SEC, I've contacted all these, I've tried to report it. Well, all those agencies will take your report, but what you have to understand is they are purely administrative, right? The SEC has no criminal ability whatsoever. They can pull somebody standing in the stock market, they can do stuff like that, but they can't file charges. That's every state, and every state is different, but every state is the one who's going to actually have the hammer when it comes to investment fraud. So I know it's difficult because not in all states is it the Secretary of State's office that handles it. Sometimes they're called the Financial Investigations Division for the state of insert state name where, so. But that's something I can help you with. So if there's something going on or you have a friend involved, you call your state securities, I'll get me on the phone, and I'll point you in the right direction. But at the end of this, I'm going to show you our form and tell you how to get there and all that stuff. Yes, sir?
The thing that's going around that I've been hearing a couple of times this week, this is your grandson. Grandpa, I need help.
Yeah, the kidnapping scams. Yeah, that happens all the time, especially, again, I'm from New Mexico, so, we're about 3 hours away from the border. You get those all the time, right, where they'll tell you, oh, we have your son or daughter for ransom. They'll send you a blurry pic of a girl or a guy, and it looks like they're, beat up or something, but you can't tell, and if you have a child, then you're like immediately like, oh my gosh. And you reach out and find it's a scam, right? But those kind of things do come up all the time. At the end of the day, one of the things we're trying to impart to you is you have to have your guard up at all times, right? Because once they're in your house, they're in your house. So, yes, ma'am.
Yeah, we're always getting invites to these free dinners, we're always getting invites in the mail, these free dinners. I don't trust these people. I watch American Greed, and I've seen where some people thought of as free lunches and they've invested and they've gotten screwed out of their money.
Yep.
I'm not saying these are necessarily illegitimate businesses, but I just don't trust them. And when I get them, I shred them.
Well, you should, and I'll tell you why. So one of the things that I taught you earlier was that you should be suspicious at all times, but definitely if they come to you, right? If they approach you and they say, hey, come to my dinner, right? I'm hosting it usually a fancy restaurant. Although we do have one woman in town who usually hosts at her house. She has dinners at her house. And again, if she does that a few times a month and she gets 1 or 2 people, she's good to go, right? So you should, because Merrill Lynch, you name all the big ones, they never come to you. They're waiting on you to come to them, right? And that's how it works. So if you have a person who's coming out to you seeking your money, be a red flag, right? Because I can't tell you how many times one of the things I'll always say is like, hey, we're making money hand over foot. You need to come to our dinner so you can start making money too. My question always is like, if you're making money hand over foot, what do you need money for, right? You're already doing well, don't worry about it, right? So those are the kind of things. So if nothing else, we want you to make sure you ask the right questions. Anything else before we move on to crypto real quick? We got about 10 minutes on crypto, is that? All right, Todd.
All right, thank you. So it's great to come here and talk with you. What's the best way to prevent being victimized? It's education. And so you're here doing that. So great job on that, learning about this. Cryptocurrency is becoming a way of life for some people, and other people don't do anything with it. But what we found is that now the crooks, in addition to wires and ACH payments and Venmo and stuff like that, now they want to be paid in crypto because there's a feeling that it's anonymous. They won't get caught. But if you send crypto to somebody, there is a way. It's pseudo-anonymous, it's pseudonymous, it's like somewhat anonymous, but we can actually find out a lot of the times if it's a domestic exchange who the person is. All right, so we're going to go through this really quick. Just, you can look at those stats if you want, but Nevada is 26th by loss in the states for crypto, average of 66,200. Okay. All right, so here are common elements of scams, and it includes cryptocurrency scams. There's an unknown person, so somebody that you don't know, or they say they're somebody, but they might actually be somebody else. They request information. So like, hey, have you ever invested in crypto before? No, never have. Well, I'm making tons of money in it. So a call to action. If you invest in crypto, I will help you to turn it into a lot of money, double, triple your investment. And then these last two things apply to all scams. Urgency. You got to do it now because we're losing out. If you don't do it now, you're gonna miss out. So my mom, she's 91. She lives in the Sun City down in Phoenix. So yes, I know not to call in the morning during the Price is Right, and not at night when there is a Jeopardy and Wheel of Fortune going on. But she called me one time. She said, "Hey, the IRS just called. They said if I don't pay them $500, they're going to come to my house and arrest me. What do I do?" And I said, "Nothing. Just report the number to your police because they're not there." First of all, the IRS sends letters, right? And if it is really the criminal people, you're not going to get out of it by paying $500. So just don't do anything. Of course, nothing happened, right? And she reported the number. But that's it, the urgency. They're on their way. You got to do it before they get here, right? And the next one, a request not to tell others. Because what happens if you tell others? They're going to say, "Hey, what are you talking about? Don't do that." So these two things, urgency and request not to tell others. Anybody who tells you that, that's an immediate, Okay? Talks about cryptocurrency, you know, the pictures they always show with the coins. I mean, there is no coin. It's all digital. So I don't know why they show coins all the time, but there is no coin, okay? So you can think about it, it's not backed by a government. It's all supply and demand. Why is Bitcoin at 66,000? Supply and demand. There's nothing backing that up. Okay? So you can buy it through an exchange, an app, a website. We can talk more about public keys and private keys and stuff like that, but I think when Gary asked, there weren't too many people who were doing crypto, so this isn't that relevant, but it's just like a password. You never want to give out your password. Never give out your private key to anybody, or log into your crypto account. And these transactions are all public. They're on a blockchain. You can see it all at blockchain.com/explorer. Okay, so there's like all kinds of different scams. And I'm going to go through all of these.
Pick a few new ones.
Okay, so you've heard about pig butchering, Bitcoin ATM scams. They want you to put money into a Bitcoin ATM. Anything that asks you to put money into a Bitcoin ATM, immediately hang up the phone, don't do it, okay? I don't know what else is going on with the investment, but that's a scam right there. Phishing, smishing, vishing. So phishing emails, smishing is SMS text, phishing is voice. So people call you on the phone, they send you a text, they send you an email, and they're trying to get you to do something quickly, right? And don't tell others, okay? So just be very careful of that. And in the middle attacks, so if you ever go to like an airport and get on the Wi-Fi, unless you're using like what's called a virtual private network, a VPN, like a NordVPN or a Proton VPN, you could be subject to a man-in-the-middle attack. So if you go to the airport and there's airport Wi-Fi, as a bad guy, I could set up my own Wi-Fi router that says free airport Wi-Fi, and you probably attach to mine. Once you attach to mine, I get everything that you send. I get all your passwords. I get everything that you're sending on that. Okay, so that's a man-in-the-middle attack. So if you're at a place like that and you don't have a VPN, it's better to just use the data on your phone, okay, instead of the free Wi-Fi. Okay, so there's also some cloud mining scams going on. So I don't know if you know, but Bitcoin, the way they introduce new Bitcoin, one of the ways is to mine it. So people like solve an equation and post transactions on a blockchain, and for that they get a reward for doing that. Well, there's people now who sell, for some money you can buy like computing power on a cloud mining service. And so you give them money, but it's all fake, because you're not mining anything. So you do it with the thought of getting some reward back of the Bitcoin when they solve the equation posted on the blockchain, but there are a few legitimate ones, but a lot of them are just scams because you don't know if you actually bought anything or not, right? You can't confirm. Okay.
One of the things that they,
Yes.
when you get emails, if it's ever from a Gmail, .gmail.
Oh, yeah. Gmail.gmail, yeah.
Never respond to a Gmail, plus you know that.
Okay. Yeah, so like a gmail.gmail, something like that. Yeah. Okay.
I want your money at Gmail.
Okay. I mean, I have like 2 Gmail accounts, so.
I never respond to
Okay. All right. That's-
I have investigated.
Okay, so here's some red flags. Promises of large gains or double the investments. Just want to make sure you got everything here. Okay, so promises of large gain, double the investment. They only accept cryptocurrency as payments. So misspelling and grammatical errors, that means they probably don't speak English well, right? Some might be overseas. Okay. Manipulation tactics such as threats, extortion, or blackmail. So I'll address this mostly to the guys. So guys, even if you've done like a few extra push-ups lately, probably that 20-year-old you're talking to online is not interested in you except for your money. Okay? So I worked overseas for the federal government in 2 different countries, and I would get this like all the time. Hey, so I was chatting with this 20-something-year-old girl. She lives in the country there, and pretty soon we started to it turned kind of to romance, and she said, oh, well, let me see what you got. And so I happened to send her a few naked pictures, and now she's wanting me to send her cryptocurrency, or she's going to tell my friends, my children, my grandchildren, something like that. Okay? So we always refer that to the local police. And in the different countries, it was interesting. One of the countries said, well, if they did that, that's their fault. We're not going to do anything on it. And another country said, okay, we'll see what we can do. And they actually got the people, put them away. So, but it's luck of the draw. But there's things that they do like that, so you have to be really careful. It's like we tell when we go talk to middle school and high school kids, don't take naked pictures of yourself, don't store them on your phone, don't send them to anybody, anything like that, okay? Because it's only going to go bad. Okay, promises of free money, fake influencers, minimal details about the money and investment. A lot of transactions in one day. Well, you're not going to make a lot of money in crypto trading a bunch during the day, okay? Because it does fluctuate, but you don't need a lot. Okay, here's your new online friend wants to move a conversation to a private messaging app. So they start maybe on a legitimate app, and then they move to some place where it's really hard for us to get records. Okay, they message frequently, but never want to meet in person because the picture you see is not who they are. That's why. They claim to be wealthy because of all these trading successes based on inside information. Encourage you to open an account and recommend a site that only accepts crypto. Tell you to invest and send the funds to their wallet or particular trading platform. You follow their directions, make a lot of money on paper quickly and easily. So these organized crime groups actually employ software developers that make these apps. So they might send you a link, and you hit the link, and it goes to an app that's controlled by the people. And so when you send money to the wallet, they know that. They put the money on your app, and it looks like you're making a lot of money. So what do you want to do? You want to send them more money. Okay? Okay, so here is an example of a simple cryptocurrency transactions where the victim over there on the left sent money to the perpetrator here on the right. So the victim here sent money to the perpetrator. Okay, and then you can see that it goes from there. It's split into wallets, split into more wallets, split into more wallets. Eventually goes to a darknet marketplace. These go up here, and this goes into this is actually an exchange we can get some records for. But all of these are foreign exchanges, which is where the money's probably taken out, and those we can't get records from. We can't seize assets there, anything like that. And that could all happen in a couple of minutes. Okay, so a lot of times we get reports from people like a couple of weeks later, and it's long gone by then. Okay, so if it's too good to be true, it usually is, right? Somebody said that. Okay, so some other rules of investing: never invest more money than you can afford to lose. So I had the unfortunate chance to hear a lot of people who invested their life savings, and it's just so sad because they're like my age and they don't have a lot of time to ever make that back up. So never invest more money than you can afford to lose. Never mix romance and investment advice. Okay? Okay, that's crypto stuff. Never follow a link or open an attachment in a text or email. How do they get access to your computer or your phone? Like 90% of the time, they send you a text with a link, with an attachment or a link, or they send you an email with an attachment or a link, and you click that, and that's enough. Now they have access to your phone. They have access to your computer. They put a keystroke logger on there. They get all your passwords, all that stuff. And it's just because they were good at crafting an email or a text that made you open the link. Okay? Perform due diligence, ask a trusted family member or friend. Again, don't use public Wi-Fi unless it's encrypted somehow, like with a VPN, or if you have to use something, use your phone, the data on your phone instead. So if you are investing in a crypto, don't make that from your main account that has all your money in it. A lot of times when the exchanges get hacked into, the people will initiate an ACH from the customer's account. So if you got a lot of money in there, they're going to get a bunch of money. If you only have a couple hundred, you're good. They might get that, but that's not what they want. Okay, if you do, and I don't know if this makes sense or not, but if you do have a wallet where you store your public and private keys, make sure you don't buy it from a public store, like an Amazon type store, because a lot of people will get those, put their malware on it, and return it. And so when the next person buys it, they put their public and private keys on there, and the bad guy gets it. So I can take all the money. Okay. Okay. So if you ever have if you ever want to try this, you have a picture of somebody on a profile. Copy the picture, put it into Google, and just hit enter and do a reverse trace. It'll show you all the times that picture shows up on different profiles of people. Okay. Do everything you can to verify their identity. Check their registration status. You can see how long the website's been up, and you can check for resources at the NASA there, and the FINRA that we've talked about. And you can report it. Here's some places. This is the FBI's Internet Crime Complaint Center, Federal Trade Commission, Commodity Futures Trading Commission, US SEC, our office, local police, credit reporting agencies, crypto exchanges, financial institutions. All these people have an interest in helping. Okay?
If you have a question, we want you to raise your hand so we can bring you the microphone. So as we are recording, we want to get your question.
I don't understand crypto at all. I would never invest in it. I don't know. But is it something physical, or did you say it was?
No, it's not. It's not physical. They always show crypto with coins, and there is no coin. There's no you can't have a Bitcoin in your hand. It's all digital on the computer.
So, aside from the scams, who deals in crypto? I mean, who has crypto?
So a lot of people buy crypto as an investment. Some people, like me, use it for undercover stuff. So some of the sites we go to require payment in crypto, so I know how to pay in crypto. A lot of people use it as an investment, and that's why the price is like always driving up, and Bitcoin just had a halving event. It's hard to say. So that drove the price up, and so a lot of people are investing like that. It's kind of a supply and demand thing. And the coins, when I started out, there was like less than 2,000 coins. Last time I checked, there were 9,954 coins that people could, not physical coins, but on the blockchains. Over like 700 different exchanges worldwide and 400 blockchains or something. It's just growing and growing and growing. So retailers are starting to accept it, so you can pay in Bitcoin or something like that. So it's becoming more mainstream all the time.
That was a good question. I think, Gary, what we need to tell everybody is that you and I will work on some of the information that was in the PowerPoint, and we will get it to people. Somehow we will get it to you, so be patient with us. Jeff can post it on the Computer Club site. We're going to both post the video on Computer Club and on the NPT YouTube channel. Does anyone else have any questions? I know they have some materials in the back for you, right?
Yeah, so, I got real quickly, I just want to run how you can file a complaint with our office. It'll take like 3 minutes. But before I forget, we do have a bunch of pamphlets in the back, including an investor guide and a couple other pamphlets. I'll make sure that Mary gets the list. I saw some of you furiously trying to keep up with some of the websites that Todd and I mentioned. I'll make sure you get all that stuff. But, just to kind of elaborate on the crypto stuff. So how many knew that there's casinos in town that take cryptocurrency? Yeah, a couple of you guys. Yeah, so like I think it's Cosmo. They actually, I don't know if they still do, but at one point they had a couple of different ATMs that dealt only in cryptocurrency, right? So it is out there, and of course it shot up to some degree of value when countries like Japan and China and Russia started to back it and purchased their own, so then it became more valuable. Because at one point or another, Bitcoin was worth next to nothing, and now if you have a few Bitcoins that you bought back in the day for a penny, you'd be a millionaire, right? So let's go real quickly through how you can file a complaint with our office. So this is our main website. This is just the Nevada Secretary of State main website. The picture will always change, but just look for the name at the top. You'll want to go to the Securities tab. And when you press on it, you're going to see that it has all these different information, and right there it says file a complaint. And that's Securities file a complaint. So you're going to want to click on that right there, the complaint form, PDF version, because it's fillable, right? You can also print it and write it in if you want to, but I'm the kind of person I like to just type it in. So that's what the form's going to look like, right? And it has all your important stuff. To start out with, page 1 is your information. You'd be surprised because people have been scammed. Sometimes we'll get a name and maybe an email, right, and nothing else. Well, it makes it very difficult for my folks and I to help you if I can't contact you. And so sometimes we'll wind up tracking them down using our databases, and they'll be like, I've been waiting forever, what took so long? Well, you have to do your part too. Please include all contact details regarding your investor and salesperson. This is how we know some of what we mentioned today, is that I can't tell you how many people are unable to fill this box, right? Because they're like, I don't know, his name is Jack, and I have a phone number, and that's what they put, right? They know very little about this person that they gave $180,000 to. Include details regarding the date invested, type of agreement, amount. I already explained why the date invested is important, method of payment, and most importantly, where all of these took place. And right here is the box, and you'll be able to see that if you visit the site. So the reason why is because one of the first things we have to do is determine jurisdiction. So I have, and my guys have jurisdiction if the money comes from here or goes out from here. If my offender or victim lives here. If the business is here. There's a finite list of items that allow me to have jurisdiction. If not, then we'll try and put you in touch with the state that does have jurisdiction. But that's one of the pieces of information we use to try and determine that right off the bat. Tell your story. So I sometimes will get one sentence, right? It says, I gave Jack $180,000. Okay, well that's not a lot for me to go on. And sometimes when you put your screen, they're unsure whether to assign it to the criminal division or not. So just kind of be detailed. Give a few paragraphs. This person approached me at the gym and explained to me that they were making money, told me they could pay me off in 10 days, all that kind of stuff. And most importantly, include a bank number. Because they'll always tell you how to get money to them, always. Get me that bank account number and I can have their bank account in a matter of days and determine what happened to your money. Same stuff. Documentary evidence is very important. If they gave you a contract, get me that. If they gave you pieces of information like a prospectus on their company or research development, give me that. I want everything and anything. There is no such thing in my field as having too much information. Because you'd be surprised how many times our cases are made or broke by information we did or did not get. And sometimes they'll give us I don't know if this means anything, and it's the thing that turns everything around. And then you can sign it and fill it out at the bottom saying it's all the truth. And then you can either send it via email to that address right there. I'll leave it up. Or you can send it snail mail in that regard, if you still do that. Right? We reached the end of our show. So, you might want to take a picture of that, write down those are the phone numbers. Just ask for me, Chief Gary Barboa, and I'll get get you, if I can't get you information, I'll make sure my guys do. Feel free, and again, I'll try and get as much of this information as I can to you, Mary. But
You and I will work on this.
Yeah.
We'll have a lot more information. How many of you learned anything today?
yeah, please.
Anything, yeah. I mean, it's just amazing. And like you said in the beginning, how many of you knew there was a criminal investigation division inside the Secretary of State's office? Who knew? So we're going to bring Gary and his team back, and we'll work on it. So tell your friends and neighbors and have them look for the e-glass that will come out in the date in October. But make sure you go back to their table in the back and get what materials you can. And again, we'll get all the websites and everything that were in here, we will get them out to you.
Thank you, everybody. I really appreciate your time. Thank you.